Tonight, a knife fight turns deadly in the heart of Geelong. A 20-year-old killed, 2 others injured.
A kindergarten and medical centre damaged as Melbourne's tobacco turf war takes an explosive turn.
A Mill Park man charged over a chilling kidnap attempt, the latest live.
The PM in the hot seat over Qantas perks as Labor takes a hit in the Queensland election.
Naked ambition, thousands bear all for the perfect happy snap.
And racing's newest superstar on track for a tilt at the Melbourne Cup.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Maddern.
Good evening. A young man is dead and 2 others are in hospital tonight after a savage fight at a popular party strip in Geelong.
Homicide detectives shut down an entire street today as they do everything in their power to solve the state's latest knife crime.
A night out that ended in tragedy. 20-year-old Jamie Sykes was fatally stabbed on Little Mallop Street, a popular clubbing strip. Today, the massive crime scene is stained with the signs of his battle for life.
Yeah, sad and, thinking, 20-year-old, so young.
Police believe the Corio man was involved in a fight around 5:30 this morning. They found him with a stab wound, but he couldn't be saved.
Horrible, just something so close to you, thinking, you hear about it all the time, but when it happens, in front of your doorstep, you think, yeah, it's scary.
2 others involved in the fight took themselves to hospital. They're okay. Police working across a huge area through the entire day to piece together what happened to a much-loved young man. Known as Chugs, the grief is raw for those who love him. Rest in peace, you were there for me through thick and thin. Rest easy, our barber, but even better, our good friend. We lost one of the good ones today, forever 20.
It feels safe. I feel safe around here, so for that to happen definitely is going to shake the community a bit and stuff, yeah.
The size of this crime scene brought Sunday trade to a halt for several nearby businesses. Some of them say this is far from the first time they've been impacted by violence. This is the latest knife crime incident in Victoria, the attacks playing out in public places, and locals are fed up.
Something needs to happen and it needs to happen now.
Rory Campbell has the latest from the crime scene. Rory, we're learning more about this fight by the hour.
My details have been slowly trickling through over the course of the day, but there are still many unanswered questions the SES has been helping out with. They conducted a search of the crime scene a short time ago. Homicide detectives have been working to establish exactly who was involved in this fight and who might have stabbed Jamie Sykes. This huge crime scene is still very much active here. Several roads still blocked off in the heart of Geelong, where it's been a sad day.
Sad day indeed. Rory, thank you.
A kindergarten and a medical centre have become collateral damage in Melbourne's never-ending tobacco turf war. This time, fire bombers struck in Mickleham, lighting a blaze so fierce the whole neighbourhood came out to watch.
Rammed inside, then torched. It's a formula that's been repeated dozens of times in Melbourne's tobacco wars, but this time the offenders didn't get away so smoothly, accidentally lighting themselves on fire as they ran from the scene. The car bomb attack woke families just after 1 this morning.
The smoke was going everywhere into our house. It was a rough night, hard to breathe as well.
There was smoke that we could see from our house. Lots of sirens and, it went on for hours.
The blaze burned through an adjoining kindergarten and medical centre.
And initially we thought it was just gunshots, but then we made our way out and we just saw like a massive fire and with it explosions like every, I'd say, minute or 2 minutes.
The building complex was still smouldering more than 6 hours later as detectives investigating illicit tobacco took over the scene.
The shop, it's been having a lot of popularity and a lot of fame the past few months I've been noticing, and I think they might have done something that caused a bunch of people to be triggered, competition.
Residents have told 7 News they hope the store doesn't reopen. The owners recently lost their right to operate 24 hours a day after multiple noise complaints from the community. In the past year, there's been 105 arson attacks at tobacco stores across the state. Bethan Yeoman, 7 News.
A Mill Park man has been charged over a chilling kidnap attempt northeast of Melbourne. Tyra Stowers has tonight's developments from police headquarters. Tyra, he's accused of trying to drag a woman into his ute.
Well, Mike, police say the 39-year-old approached the woman, but thankfully she managed to escape uninjured. Now, this terrifying incident all unfolded just after 6 p.m. Friday when police say the 27-year-old woman was walking along Forest Street in Whittlesea when he tried to drag her into his grey ute. It's believed the same man approached two teenage girls riding scooters on Oakbank Boulevard earlier in the day. Thankfully, they also managed to escape unharmed. Police arrested the man in Shepparton yesterday morning and he has been slapped with a string of charges including attempted kidnap, aggravated burglary and 2 counts of aggravated assault. He's been remanded to appear at Melbourne Magistrates Court tomorrow. Mike?
Tyra, thank you. The truck driver involved in the crash that killed an elderly couple in their home near Warrnambool has been released pending further inquiries. The 70-year-old truckie remains in hospital recovering from Friday's crash. Jim Maddern and his wife Carmel were in the bedroom of their Tower Hill home when the truck veered off the Princess Highway just after 7 a.m.
Serious questions are being asked about the Prime Minister's relationship with former Qantas boss Alan Joyce.
There are claims Anthony Albanese personally requested more than 20 free flight upgrades and perks for his family.
Landing in claims of Qantas corruption, Anthony Albanese, home from the South Pacific, not keen to get stuck talking. Visibly angry as he was pressed on revelations, he asked former Qantas CEO Alan Joyce for more than 20 free upgrades on economy class flights dating back to 2009.
Every single thing has been declared. Every single thing has been declared.
Including an Emirates flight from Sydney to Rome in 2011.
Well, buongiorno.
And for lounge membership for his son after splitting from partner Carmel Tebbit.
My relationship ended. My relationship ended in my +1 when that happened, and I put out a media release when my marriage ended. You can't be more transparent than that. And my +1 became my son.
His relationship with Alan Joyce under scrutiny after Qantas publicly backed Labor's Yes campaign.
How you going, buddy? You've been awesome.
And Labor blocked Qatar Airways from bringing more flights into Australia, freeing up more airspace for the national carrier and reducing competition.
The Prime Minister has been running a protection racket for Qantas.
The same relationship with him that I had with John Borghetti as the CEO of Virgin.
7 News asked Qantas about the nature of the relationship between their former CEO and the Prime Minister, but they refused to comment. Their position up in the air. Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
And the PM's worries don't end there, with Labor booted from power in Queensland for the first time in a decade. The result was closer than many predicted, with both major parties sure to take note heading into next year's federal election.
An early start on day one for Queensland's new Premier.
We're off to work and we're underway.
The sounds of last night's victory still ringing in his ears. Winning a campaign fought on youth crime, and after 10 years of Labor, it's time.
Tonight, Queenslanders have voted for hope over fear.
Labor's Stephen Miles not conceding last night.
I will never stop fighting for our Labor agenda.
This morning, accepting defeat, confirming he will stand to lead Labor in opposition. The latest count, the LNP with 49 seats, majority government, Labor 36. Having suffered 10% swings in the regions, 8 in the outer suburbs, 5 in metropolitan Brisbane.
It was like climbing a mountain with weighed down with a backpack and in the sleeting snow.
Cost of living and housing were big issues in the Brisbane electorate. It's a clear message to the federal government that urban voters will whack it too if it doesn't do enough to ease those pressures. Katter's Australians Party leader Robbie Katter tackled on Seven's coverage over his call to recriminalise abortion.
This has caused women a huge amount of fear and anxiety. Would you like to apologise or show any remorse for what you've done? A huge amount of Robbie, there has been a spike.
Women voters speaking for themselves. His party's vote falling. The messages here for the coming federal election are many. Labor will be deeply concerned about the loss of support in those heartland areas on the urban fringes. It won't want to see that repeated across the country, or it will be in big trouble. And the way to prevent that is to convince voters it is doing something substantial on the cost of living, and fast. But the underperformance of the Greens vote will give Labor some hope of winning back the 2 federal Queensland seats the Greens took from them at the last election. And for Peter Dutton, well, he shares in the taste of victory. And that for any leader just 8 months or so out from a federal election tastes pretty sweet.
Political editor Mark Riley. Thank you, Mark.
A woman has been killed in a shocking crash in Streatham, around 80 kilometres west of Ballarat. Police say she was behind the wheel of her car when it collided with a 4-wheel drive on Glenelg Highway just before 10 this morning. The male driver of the other car was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
World leaders are calling on Iran not to respond to Israel's missile attack on military sites in Tehran.
Iran says at least 4 of its soldiers were killed, but maintains the strikes caused only limited damage.
It was the biggest strike on Iranian soil in decades, a calculated mission carried out by Israel's formidable air force, releasing new images of its pilots preparing to fly deep into enemy territory. Tehran said the retaliatory strikes were largely thwarted by its air defence system, downplaying the extent of the damage, but confirming 4 of its soldiers
to drag the region into wider escalation will pay a heavy price.
It's been almost a month since Iran unleashed a barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel, ratcheting up this regional conflict and opening the door for Israel to target Iran's nuclear and oil facilities.
It looks like they didn't hit anything other than military targets. My hope is this is the end.
World leaders calling for containment.
We need to avoid further regional escalation and urge all sides to show restraint. Iran should not respond.
Iran says it's entitled to respond in what could descend into a dangerous and direct tit-for-tat. In London, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
As cigarette thefts go, this is about as brazen as it gets. A staff member at BWS in Cranbourne North filmed the accused crook ransacking drawers while saying sorry as he stole.
That's enough, mate.
I need to be able to survive. Thank you very much. We really do apologise for what I've done.
Staff say he left with around $6,000 worth of cigarettes.
The state government has handpicked a selection of apartment designs and will fast-track their development in the latest attempt to tackle Melbourne's housing shortage. But the move has some real estate experts wondering whether anyone will want to live there.
Day 8 of the state government's plan to woo younger voters, a housing pitch with a big price tag.
We want to see more diversity in the types of homes that are being built.
These are the types of properties the Allen government wants to see more of, and they're cutting the red tape to do it, slashing approval wait times for townhouses and low-rise apartments they consider well-designed, from 12 months to 4.
For buildings that are innovative, that are sustainable, that look good.
They're not unlocking projects that would be feasible today that would deliver more homes for more people.
We've seen a rush of announcements in the last week simply to try to pretend that there's real action being undertaken.
The idea is modelled on boutique, high-quality apartment builds like this one in South Melbourne.
We need more projects like this to showcase that it's a great way to live for a family.
With award-winning design on the doorstep of the CBD, the apartments don't come cheap. A 1-bedroom will set you back up to $650,000, a 2-bedroom around $950,000. For 3 beds, a minimum of $1.2 million.
There are questions about who wants to live in the mid-level apartment buildings the government is promising. A recent survey showed just 1 in 5 would consider the move from the suburbs, and only if the price was comparable.
The price point you have to now sell them for to make them attainable and feasible for a developer is very, very high.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
In the ultimate test of man versus machine, man has triumphed easily with close to 400 runners comfortably beating puffing Billy home in the iconic annual race. The first athletes crossed the line in 47 minutes, 21 minutes faster than the steam train along the gruelling course.
Every time we rounded a corner, there was another top to get to, so I was just trying to keep focused, get to the top and finish it strong.
A brave 360 ran even further, completing a half marathon through the hills. Theo Doropoulos is here for an early look at sport. Now, Theo, there are questions over the Melbourne Cup favourite.
Beck Veer, Sistina still certainly the toast of the racing world after the Cox Plate. Coming up, we'll find out her chances of being at Flemington in 9 days, despite already becoming the bookies' favourite. It was a tough day behind the wheel as well in the Formula 1 and chaos in the supercars on the Gold Coast, plus India reeling ahead of their Aussie tour and $1 billion scare in baseball. Doesn't matter what sport, that number should scare you a little bit.
$1 billion, yeah, absolutely. Theo, see you soon. Thank you. Australia's mobile phone network will change forever tomorrow. Up next, what the 3G shutdown means for you.
Also ahead on 7 News, the Melbourne student activist arrested in her bedroom.
Why the former First Lady has American men firmly in her sights.
Prince William shares never-before-seen pictures of his mother Diana.
And later, naked ambition. Thousands of Aussies bare all for snapper Spencer Tunick. A pro-Palestine activist has released vision of her own arrest. The protester was taken into custody on Thursday over her involvement in the Land Forces Expo. Thousands of demonstrators clashed with police in September against the Weapons Expo in Melbourne. 27 police officers required medical treatment.
I'm just going to do a quick pat-down search as well, OK?
Almost 90 people were fined or charged on the day. Kamala Harris is harnessing the support of powerful friends as she tries to shore up mail votes 8 days out from the US election.
The Vice President and Donald Trump are both targeting swing states where the race remains tight.
A former First Lady with American men in her sights.
Fellas, before you cast your votes, ask yourselves, what side of history do you want to be on?
Michelle Obama helping out a friend and, she hopes, her country.
Do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump.
He too was in Michigan, aware that the race here is tied and hinging on the local Muslim population.
We're winning overwhelming support from the Muslim and Arab voters.
Trump's telling supporters he'll end all wars. Others, though, aren't convinced.
He's an aberration in American politics. In Star Wars terms, he's sort of a disturbance in the force.
That, the brutal assessment of Trump's own longtime former national security advisor, John Bolton.
He knows very little history or very much about the world. We're going to have a long 4 years if he's elected.
The one-time US ambassador telling 7 News all bets would be off in a second Trump term.
I think it's very dangerous because Putin and others, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, President Erdogan of Turkey, know how to play Trump. They know how to flatter him. They know how to appeal to his ego.
You're painting the picture there of a foreign policy dope, essentially.
He doesn't have a philosophy or think in policy terms. He thinks primarily about what benefits Donald Trump.
Meaning allies like Australia could be left out in the cold.
So is the AUKUS alliance therefore in doubt?
Well, I think it could be in jeopardy. I think it's. I would not take it for granted. All Trump looks at is the balance sheet, and if he sees more U.S. expenditures than those of the other parties to the agreement, then I think there'll be trouble.
And the same goes for NATO, but Trump's made that clear, and the only advice Ambassador Bolton has for our PM in navigating a possible Trump 2.0.
If the Prime Minister of Australia plays golf, that's a plus. If he doesn't, he might want to learn.
In Kalamazoo, Michigan, David Woywood, 7 News.
Older mobile phones and other devices will cease to work from tomorrow when our 3G network is finally shut down. It could leave tens of thousands of Australians high and dry. Chris Marr explains what to expect.
It's the end of an era. No more 3G. From tomorrow, the network will be turned off. And while most Australians upgraded their devices some time ago, there are still tens of thousands that haven't yet made the switch. As many as 18,000 3G mobile phones are still in use on the Telstra network alone. Add to that a further 70,000 4G devices, which, despite the name, actually use the 3G network for calls. And then there are devices you might not expect. Personal medical alarms, 4 monitors, even pacemakers. These can be hooked up to 3G too. The shutdown announced back in 2019 will make way for the higher speed 5G. So the best advice is to check your tech. You can text 3 to the number 3498 to see if your phone will be affected. Contact your service provider for details on how to upgrade. And we're being urged to check in with elderly family members, friends and neighbours in case they need a hand.
Prince William has shared never-before-seen childhood photos ahead of the release of a documentary about his mission to end homelessness. He credits his mother Diana with lighting the fire that would pave the way for his passion project.
Christmas 1993. William and his mother Diana stand shoulder to shoulder with the cooks in the kitchen of a homeless shelter.
My mother took me to the passage. She took Harry and I both there. I must have been about 11, I think, probably at the time, maybe 10.
He says the visit left a lasting impression, helping him see outside the palace walls for the first time.
And I was a bit anxious as to what to expect. I remember at the time kind of thinking, well, if everyone's not got a home, they're all going to be really sad. But it was incredible how happy an environment it was.
It was an experience that would one day lead him to open affordable housing projects and launch his mission to end homelessness for good.
I don't believe we should be living with homelessness in the 21st century. It's when you meet people that I did then who put a different perspective in your head and say like, well, I was living on the street last night. You're like, what? You know, yeah, it's like, I remember that happening.
As for whether the heir to the throne, himself the owner of 3 homes, plus the 54,000-hectare Duchy of Cornwall estate, is qualified to speak on this issue.
Why else would I be here if I'm not using this role properly to influence and help people where I can?
He says he's having the same conversations with his children now as Diana had with himself and Harry.
When you're quite small, you just think life is what you see in front of you.
The 2-part ITV series airs in the UK on Friday. Jacinta Lee, 7 News.
Sonia Marinelli joins us, and Sonia, it's turning grey out there again.
Yes, Mike, and that cloud is producing some light showers on the radar at the moment. It's also kept the sunshine mostly hidden from view. The city officially recording a Sunday high of 25.7, but it certainly didn't feel that warm if you were caught in the shade and the wind. Now the winds have shifted to a southerly. The temperature has dropped around 8 degrees, and coming up this week, that colder airflow will keep a lid on temperatures. I'll have this week's forecast straight after sport. Beck,
See you then. OK, thanks, Son.
Thank you. Well, more than 200 tactical police have boarded the Spirit of Tasmania in a critical test for Victoria's first responders. See the pictures next on 7 News.
Also ahead, the moment a high-speed police chase went off the rails.
The freak weather event that's caused flooding in the Sahara Desert.
And Bruce McAvaney reveals a big Melbourne Cup Day honour for the legendary jockey Johnny Letts.
Tactical police have joined more than 200 other first responders for a training drill on board the Spirit of Tasmania. They were called to respond to a scenario involving a mass stabbing attack to test their skills under the most extreme pressure. In the fake scenario, 2 offenders had stabbed passengers as the ship was crossing Bass Strait, with reinforcements called to attend from Melbourne.
2 police officers have scrambled to safety after their patrol car speared onto tracks seconds before a train hurtled past. They'd been chasing a speeding motorbike when their vehicle lost control.
Crashing onto rail tracks, a patrol car just near Mount Druitt Station, and only seconds later, going by on the opposite line.
Landed on the track, lucky not to be killed by a train.
Moments before, CCTV cameras show a motorbike rider going left at an intersection.
All of a sudden I heard this a short-lived siren.
A police vehicle with lights and sirens follows, but it misses the corner, smashing into a fence, careering down onto the tracks.
There was smoke, of course, coming from the car, and that's when we really thought, oh, this is serious.
Other drivers pulled over to assist. Residents came too. The two police were able to get out of their vehicle, only minor injuries.
They put their thumbs up. They're both safe.
Starting on the Great Western Highway, police say the officers tried to stop a speeding motorcyclist before crashing.
Straight through the roundabout, narrowly missing a tree and ending up on the rail track. An investigation's underway. Police today not describing this as a pursuit.
The police vehicle quickly removed from the tracks, but locals say it's the second accident here in recent months.
People come speeding up here, they use it as a racetrack.
Police are still looking for the motorcyclists, appealing for witnesses. Chris Marr, 7 News.
Hopes of a greater role for women in the Catholic Church have been dashed. A multi-year reform process is closed without a new teaching document calling for more equity for women. Pope Francis last week said the moment is not ripe to allow ordination of women.
Ordained men get to determine the pace and the parameters of synodality, and when the time is ripe for taking up this question. I think women around the world reject this premise.
The outcome has disappointed Catholics who've campaigned for the change.
Parts of the Sahara Desert have been hit with over 200 millimetres of rain in just 48 hours. Drone footage revealed the full extent of the flooding as sand dunes turned into ponds in Morocco.
Two-time Melbourne Cup winning jockey Johnny Letts will be honoured on the first Tuesday in November.
A race named after the 81-year-old will now be run on Cup Day, celebrating a life devoted to the sport of kings.
Over 52 years, John Letts has done it all with the Melbourne Cup. Now a race named after him on that great day.
But he's going to win. Belldale Bull, Johnny Letts.
The honour is so much. I owe racing everything, and to honour me like this has just been... I didn't expect it.
He told Bruce McAvaney it all started at the 1972 Cup.
The winner, number 16, Piping Lane, ridden by John Letts.
His very first race at Flemington.
Well, it feels really tremendous, Bill.
And again in 1980.
Let's riding for dear life, but Belldale Bull's got the Melbourne Cup won.
Something that you long for in your life. I think if you lined up 100 jockeys out there and said, what race would you like to win? You know what the answer is, don't you? The Melbourne Cup.
Then John's dream job, riding banjo. He interviewed Cup winners 21 years straight, including Damien Oliver, who'd just lost his brother in a training accident.
Melbourne Cups don't mean a thing to me anymore. I'd give it back right now to have my brother back.
Yeah, mate, we can understand that, but this was for him, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
It really was.
He and Banjo, who loved Flemington's famous roses, became cult figures.
You know how I loved him.
I know you loved him.
And
Melbourne Cup!
He also loves the Melbourne Cup Tour. The John Letts Cup in Adelaide on Melbourne Cup Day, a time for reflection.
I never win as a champion, but you know what the Melbourne Cup does? Puts that stamp.
Absolutely.
Legend, doesn't it?
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Tourists have been treated to a visit from two special guests in Sydney Harbour. A whale and its calf were seen resting between the heads. Wildlife Services confirmed the pair was healthy and stopped by so Mum could take time to feed her bub. The majestic mammals made their way back out to sea a short time later. Australian crash investigators are probing the checkered safety history of a plane involved in a Midair tragedy. Details next on 7 News.
Also ahead, what's driving a crime spike along the Mornington Peninsula?
More than 100,000 reasons to run for Rossi.
And bearing all with a story to tell as Aussies strip off for Spencer Tunick's latest snap.
Residents along the Mornington Peninsula are facing a worrying rise in crime. New data shows home invasions are up 17% over the past year, while car thefts have soared by 30% over the same time. Victoria Police has responded to more than 1,500 cases involving a stolen car. Most offenders were underage.
One of two planes involved in a deadly mid-air collision southwest of Sydney had crashed once before. The revelation came as tributes began for 3 pilots killed, one a former Qantas captain.
Gary Criddle loved to fly, a Qantas pilot for more than 36 years and part of the Royal Australian Air Force roulettes for 20. But tonight his family is mourning a much-loved aviator, mentor, husband and dad after the 72-year-old was confirmed as one of 3 men killed yesterday in a mid-air collision between 2 light planes at Bulimba Park, southwest of Sydney. One plane, a yellow Cessna 182, registered to New South Wales Air Flight Training in Albion Park. Gary was on board along with a 29-year-old trainee pilot. The other plane, a Jabiru, with a sole 60-year-old man on board.
This airfield is in uncontrolled airspace, meaning it's a pilot's responsibility to communicate their intention and position to other aircraft in the area. Whether or not that happened is now a key line of inquiry for investigators.
There are some very strict protocols and well-established protocols for planes to establish separation, but essentially they're doing that separation themselves.
Investigators also collating witness reports, CCTV and the aircraft's history, including reports the Jabiru had previously been involved in a crash landing in Queensland 2 years ago. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
5,000 people have shed their insecurities and their clothes in the latest Australian installation by artist Spencer Tunick.
It was a record-breaking turnout for the renowned photographer as he turned a Brisbane bridge into a work of art.
A sight as bold as it is breathtaking. 5,500 people bearing all in Brisbane.
It's definitely quite an interesting physical experience.
At dawn, the Story Bridge transformed into a stage for renowned photographer Spencer Tunick.
Bridges to me are about connections and connectivity.
Known globally for his mass nude art installations, he moved this trusting crowd with calm, directing them into various poses for an artwork titled Rising Tide.
Your eyes are flooded by, 1,000 people in front of you of all different shapes and sizes and skin tonalities. It's quite a bizarre event.
His practiced eye capturing humanity in one of the most vulnerable and liberating ways. But he was fully clothed.
I think if I got naked, it would become, too much attention would be on me as opposed to the art itself. Plus, I don't have any pockets.
Instead, it was Brisbane who showed courage, creativity, and of course, a little cheek. Georgia Holland, 7 News.
A secret shed in Scoresby holds the key to Christmas with Australia's biggest shopping centre preparing to wow customers over the festive season.
There's nothing like seeing Chadstone come to life at Christmas.
Our sneak peek is coming up straight after sport.
Runners have honoured an MND warrior in the annual Run for Rossi. The fundraiser is named after personal trainer Chris Ross, who was diagnosed with motor neurone disease at 31.
He unfortunately is no longer with us, but his family, friends and his community want to continue Rossi's legacy.
All the funds this year go towards the Chris Ross research grant through our partnership with Fight MND, so yeah, incredibly moved.
The target for today's event was $120,000. Theo Doropoulos is back now with Sport. Theo, decision time for a Melbourne Cup favourite.
Well, Beck, Via Sistina was incredible, wasn't she? Amazing race, really. Still the talk of the town. She's the favourite for next Tuesday at Flemington. The question is, though, will she even be there? That's after the break. Also ahead, India left in a spin ahead of its blockbuster Aussie tour. A history-making Melbourne derby overshadowed from the stands. Opening lap carnage causes chaos on the Gold Coast, and baseball's billion-dollar man leaves the Dodgers holding their breath. Welcome back. Racing's newest superstar, Via Sistina, has been installed as favourite for the Melbourne Cup after her Cox Plate demolition at Moonee Valley. The mighty mare now within reach of a rare turf double.
A slow beach stroll after a record-breaking win. The fastest horse ever in the Cox Plate, Via Sistina's achievement defies belief.
You see a lot of fantastic things in sport, but yesterday was something very, very special.
Her victory still sinking in, almost 2 seconds faster than Winx's best. James McDonald with the gutsiest of rides, cementing his spot as an all-time great.
It's going to be a Cox Plate round, and James McDonald has victory of the very best.
And when she hit top speed at the 600 and she was laying into the corner, I thought, wow, that's some feeling.
100 Group 1 wins by the age of 32. It took Damien Oliver until 41, and the Cup Carnival is still to come.
To be able to join those sort of guys, it's goosebumps for me because I've dreamed it, I've lived it, and I've just loved it.
McDonald copped a $2,000 fine for celebrating early. Not that anyone cared.
I think James has got plenty there to look after that. So.
Do you think that was a bit stiff?
So, absolutely. I think, when he's that far in front.
Chris Waller will make a call on the Melbourne Cup in the next few days or whether to head to international meets. Only 5 horses have managed to win the Cox Plate Melbourne Cup double in the same year. They include Far Lap in 1930, Saintly in 1996 and the great Makybe Diva. It's a significant jump in distance, but Via Sistina has already been installed Cup favourite.
That, at the end of the day, will be the ultimate thing. What is the best thing for Via Sistina?
9 days until the big race and potentially Via Sistina's date with destiny.
I look over there and the legends signs there and I just felt it it was meant to be.
Laura Spurway, 7 News.
Certainly was, J Mac. Now, India will arrive for this summer's showdown, stung by a shock first ever series defeat to New Zealand at home. Mitch Santner's 13-wicket match haul bowled the Black Caps to a 113-run win in Pune and 2-0 lead. They play once more before India arrives for the 5-test series. They've won their past 4 against Australia, home or away.
It's not thinking too far ahead. It's important that we focus on our next game.
Aussie pace bowling great Jason Gillespie guided Pakistan to a 2-1 victory over England in his first series as a Test coach. And the WBBL kicked off in Adelaide. The Heat were too good for the Strikers, winning by 4 wickets, while Courtney Webb got the Renegades off to a flyer against the Sixers, 5 for 128 off 15 overs a short time ago. Well, the Blues have taken out the latest chapter of the Carlton-Collingwood rivalry. The Pies led it late after back-to-back fourth-quarter goals before Dana Finn stepped up with her first AFLW goal, handing the Blues a 4-point win.
Paddled by Celine Moody. Finn! Flying Finn! Got it!
The Dogs won a thriller coming from behind to beat the Saints by a point last night. A point was all it took. High drama in the Dreamtime clash between the Bombers and Tigers in Darwin. The match ending in a draw after a quick piece of thinking from Richmond's Katie Brennan. The result leaves the race for 8th place wide open. Richmond is 6th. Well, the booing of Israeli striker Jonathan Cohen overshadowed victory's 3-1 win over City in the Melbourne derby. 1-0 up inside the first 5 minutes, the result was put beyond doubt during a history-making first half. From 2-0 to 3-0 inside 25 minutes, thanks to this howler from City keeper Patrick Beach.
It's got in! Everything going Melbourne victory's way. Now they do have a third goal, and it's Ryan Teague.
That third goal completing the quickest start by either team in the history of the derby, handing victory its first win of the season. Will Brown is within touching distance of this year's Supercars Championship. There was a little bit of trouble in Paradise. It took just 1 lap for an 8-car pile-up to bring race 2 of the Gold Coast 500 to a screeching halt.
He gets served by Courtney. Bang. Oh.
Fresh off conquering Bathurst, Brodie Kostecki won from pole to the checkered flag. Brown finished second ahead of teammate Brock Feeney. He goes to the season-ending Adelaide 500 with a 180-point lead, and only Feeney can catch him. Oscar Piastri went from fastest in final practice to knocked out in the first part of qualifying at the Mexico City Grand Prix. He'll start from 17th. Yuki Tsunoda's heavy crash brought out the red flags in Q2. Ferrari's Carlos Sainz snared pole ahead of Max Verstappen. In the NBA, the first outing against former team Oklahoma City didn't go to plan for Josh Giddey as he scored 14 points for the Chicago Bulls. The Thunder won easily though, 114-95, leaving the Bulls with just one win from their first 3 games. And LA Dodgers fans have been stunned despite leading the World Series 2-0. That was after a 4-2 win over the Yankees. After trying to steal a base in the 7th inning, billion-dollar megastar Shohei Ohtani left Dodger Stadium in shock.
You can see that elbow, whether you can feel the entire crowd is holding their breath.
With good reason, Ohtani said he popped his shoulder out. Game 3's at Yankee Stadium on Tuesday. He signed a 10-year deal worth $700 million, guys. Now, if you sign that much money as the management, you'd be a little nervous, wouldn't you?
I hope he's a right-hander. Okay, thank you.
Well, the countdown to Christmas is on, and in a warehouse in Melbourne's east, helpers are hard at work.
They're applying the finishing touches to Chadstone Shopping Centre's festive displays, hoping shoppers will embrace the spirit and start spending.
Inside a secret shed in Scoresby, Christmas has arrived. Set builders are gearing up to deck the halls of Mega Mall Chadstone.
It's going to be bigger, better, more shinier, more glossy, more gold.
Australia's biggest shopping centre will be adorned with millions of lights, thousands of baubles and scores of Christmas trees.
We've worked many, many nights and spent nearly 12 months in all the preparation in the building.
Ideas become detailed drawings, computer images are created, and Santa's army brings the festive vision to life.
There's nothing like seeing Chadstone come to life at Christmas time. It's absolutely beautiful. And for us, it's almost a 12-month program of works.
One that's vital to get shoppers into the Christmas spirit of spending after a tough year, with retailers hoping for a $69.7 billion boost in sales in the 6-week lead up to Christmas, a 2.7% increase on last year.
Black Friday is really the catalyst for the significant boost in traffic, and then we see those elevated customer numbers coming all the way through to December.
For those making Christmas a reality, it's the tiniest customers who deliver the biggest reward.
Seeing the kids' faces as they walk up to the fence, look over the fence and into the set, and then realise Santa's sitting there, that's really rewarding.
Displays will be installed on November 6 with Santa bookings now open. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Sonia is back now with a look at this week's weather, and Son, we're off the spring roller coaster, well, for a while at least.
Just a little bit, Mike, yes. The working week ahead is settled, but on the cool side, I'll have the full forecast coming up next. Hello again. Well, a new week is upon us and we're looking at an average run of weather ahead with the whole state under southerly winds right through until Friday. City maximums mostly in the high teens, but it's fairly stable with no dramatic ups and downs, which is good. That comes after a warmer Sunday. The city officially reached 25.7 before that cool change hit, up to 28 in some suburbs. But depending on where you were, it did feel colder if you got caught in the wind and shade. The cloud hasn't produced any meaningful rainfall anywhere in the state, and we started the day under northwesterly winds, but now that cool change is moving through and that's been gradually dropping the temperature as it goes. It reached 32 degrees in some parts of the north, but that wind change is also taking hold there now as well. Coming up, in Victoria, we'll spend most of this week under the influence of high pressure. That high is very slow moving and will continue to direct cool southerly winds over the state, pushing the heat from central Australia up and away from us. We're not expecting any major rain-bearing systems, just an average working week with a few light showers around. OK, around the nation tomorrow, the temperature is rising in Perth, getting to 32 there tomorrow, 24 in Adelaide and just 17 down in Hobart. Southern Victoria, Monday will be cool and partly cloudy with isolated showers, mostly during the morning, while the north will be dry, mostly sunny and mild to warm. Generally, these temperatures are fairly average for this time of year. Winds light to moderate south to southwesterlies, freshening about the central and eastern coasts. We may get a morning shower around Melbourne tomorrow, followed by a sometimes grey, sometimes sunny kind of Monday, but most suburbs will struggle to warm higher than 18 or 19 from overnight lows of around 11. 12 degrees is what we're going to start on here in the city, a top of 17, a possible morning shower, then dry under a mix of sun and cloud. Looking ahead, Tuesday, cloudy and 18. Wednesday, not too bad, reaching 20 and partly cloudy. Possible shower on Thursday, 19, as well as on Friday, 17. Saturday, so far the warmest day in our forecast with a top of 26, then 23 and a shower or two around it next Sunday. But Beck, Mike, that's our week ahead.
OK, Son, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates throughout the night.
For now, from the 7 News team, please take care and good night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.